gnomes. Next week, we're living in a trailer park. But Marcus wasn't backing down. If anything, the violation notice seemed to amuse him further. You know what? I think Mr. Flamingo needs some friends. That evening, Karen called an emergency 808 board meeting in her living room. The other 4 board members sat uncomfortably on her plastic-covered furniture while she paced before a whiteboard covered in photos of the day's infractions. "We're losing control," she declared, pointing at a picture of Mrs. Chen's unicorn hose. "If we don't act decisively, chaos will consume everything we've worked to build here." Board member Patricia Wilson shifted nervously. "Karen, maybe we could be a little more flexible. The Henderson situation seems flexible." Karen's eye twitched. "Patricia, flexibility is how neighborhoods die. One compromise leads to another, and suddenly we're living next to monster truck rallies and yard sales." The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, Karen had convinced the board to implement Operation Compliance. Daily property inspections, mandatory pre-approval for any outdoor changes, and hefty fines for repeat offenders. But as the board members filed out, Patricia lingered by the door. "Karen, that little girl, she's really sick. Maybe just this once." "The rules protect everyone, Patricia. Even sick children benefit from living in an orderly community." But Karen's voice lacked its usual conviction, and she found herself staring out her window at the Henderson house long after Patricia left. The next morning brought a sight that made Karen's coffee mug slip from her fingers for the second time in 2 days. Marcus's flamingo had indeed found friends, 12 of them, each more outrageously decorated than the last. But worse, much worse, other neighbors were emerging from their houses with contraband decorations of their own. Garden gnomes appeared on the Wilsons' lawn. Wind chimes materialized on the Johnsons' porch. Even quiet Mrs. Peterson had hung a colorful flag featuring a smiling sun. Karen stood in her doorway, violation pad clutched to her chest, and realized she might have underestimated her opponents. The neighborhood was rebelling, and somehow, she'd become the villain in her own story. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Hope you're ready for the real show, Karen. This is just the beginning." Karen's bathroom mirror reflected a woman she barely recognized. Her usually perfect hair resembled a bird's nest, and stress-induced hives decorated her neck like a connect-the-dots puzzle. It had been 1 week since the Great Flamingo Rebellion began, and the situation had spiraled beyond her worst nightmares. She splashed cold water on her face and reviewed her battle plan. Today, she would personally deliver the nuclear option. Certified letters threatening legal action against every violator. No more Mrs. Nice HOA president. But stepping outside, Karen discovered that overnight, her neighborhood had transformed into what could only be described as decorative anarchy. Marcus had installed a full-size tiki bar on his front lawn, complete with a Hawaiian shirt-wearing mannequin bartender. The Chens had added a miniature windmill that played La Cucaracha every time it spun. Most shocking of all, the Hendersons had constructed what appeared to be a small circus tent in their backyard, from which the sounds of children's laughter echoed. "This ends now," Karen muttered, touching her stack of legal threats. Her first stop was Marcus's house. She found him installing solar-powered party lights around his tiki bar while humming cheerfully. "Enjoying your little revolt?" Karen asked, her voice dripping with disdain. Marcus looked up, grinning. "Actually, yeah. You know what's funny? I moved here for the quiet suburban life, but your little rule crusade has brought the whole neighborhood together. We're having block parties, sharing tools, actually talking to each other for the first time in years. You're destroying property values." "Am I?" "Because the Millers from Oak Street asked me yesterday if any houses were for sale here. Turns out people like neighborhoods where humans actually live, not museums where everything's beige and boring." Karen thrust the legal notice at him. "Cease and desist all violations within 48 hours or face litigation." Marcus read it carefully, then chuckled. "Karen, do you actually know what these HOA rules say about legal action?" "Of course I do. I wrote half of them." Section 45.23. Legal action requires unanimous board approval. Marcus's smile grew wider. Talked to Patricia Wilson this morning. Seen she's having second thoughts about your methods. Something about a sick little girl and community spirit? Karen's stomach dropped. She'd been so focused on enforcement, she'd forgotten about board politics. Patricia had always been the weak link, too concerned with feelings over regulations. Furthermore, Marcus continued, I did some research. Turns out your precious rule book hasn't been updated in 12 years. Half these regulations violate current municipal codes. That 18-inch lawn ornament rule. City ordinance allows up to 4 feet. For the first time in her HOA presidency, Karen was speechless. Her phone rang. Patricia's name appeared on the screen. Karen, we need to talk. Patricia's voice was unusually firm. Emergency board meeting. 1 hour. And Karen, don't bring your violation pad. The meeting was held at Patricia's house, which Karen noted with dismay, now featured a small herb garden with a decorative fairy village that clearly violated Section 8.31. The other board members looked uncomfortable as Patricia cleared her throat. Karen, we appreciate your dedication, but the community is in revolt. I've received 47 complaints